So I'm back at it. Need to talk a little bit about the last two videos I put out. I showed one video sharpening Maxamet on CBN Waterstones that Big Brown Bear sent me. I tested the results. Immediately after, I went to my silicon carbide stones, did the same thing, tested the results. Based on those results, the silicon carbide stones look better than the CBN, but there's a few things you got to keep in mind. That was the very first time I used these stones. It was also the very first time this knife had been sharpened. It still had the factory edge, the factory grind on it. That being said, I'm going to retest it. I'm not sure how many more times I'm going to do it because I don't want to sacrifice all of my Maxamet for this test, but at the same time, I want to give at least halfway accurate results. You know, you can't base an opinion on anything based on just one test. Many tests need to be performed to get a true average and determine an opinion based on facts. Cliff Stamp will tell you about this all day long, you know, doing cardboard cutting tests. There are so many variables and scatter in the results that it takes, you know, 50 runs of 1,000 feet of cardboard before you start to get a true idea of edge retention. I'm not sure the same could be said for sharpening. However, I do know that when you get a knife from factory, especially a super steel, the edges are burnt. They slap them on an extremely coarse belt and then just rip the burr off and send that out the door. So there's factors there that can affect the overall sharpness. Sometimes it takes several sharpenings before you start to get down to good steel that will actually maintain an edge and hold it well. That edge tester, you cannot trust the numbers that thing gives you. I've said this so many times. Before I did the silicon carbide test, I went back over the 1500 grit CBN. I then retested the edge, and I've got all this on camera. The resulting edge was a average of 96. I thought, after adding incorrectly, the average at 141 or something like that. I then did an immediate retest. This time I came up with an average of 161. So the first test I had a 96, and the test immediately after I had a 161. That is a huge variation in the numbers. I had a 54 on one of the resulting tests and then a 207 on the next one immediately after, on the same knife, the same sharpening, the same stones. I cannot stress enough, and I've said this in every video and I will continue to say this, you cannot put your faith in those numbers. I know people want to do that, but you can't. You got to just take it with a grain of salt. It is a data point. It is not the be-all, end-all of the results. Now, because I want to show these stones off, I am going to film this sharpening. However, if I do test any more between these two stones, I'm probably just going to film the results, the aftermath. I'm not going to film the entire process. I will still record sharpening the S110V and the 10V on these stones, but for this Maxamet in particular, this is probably going to be the last video I show with these stones. Now I'm going to go ahead, I've got the silicon carbide edge on here now. I am going to go ahead and cut that off. I've also got a sharpening notch that I put in after sharpening, or while sharpening on the silicon carbide stones. That alone can really help edge angles and things. So just another factor that could go into play on why the silicon carbide stones have better numbers. This is the 1500 grit CBN. And this stone is actually much faster than I gave it credit for last time. Last time I was dealing with that choil area, which gave me the illusion that the stone was being slow, when in actuality it wasn't the stone being slow, it was that choil area that was giving me fits. I was pretty much done as far as the scratch pattern goes after 20 passes on each side, I believe. I mean, there might have been a little bit more cleanup that was required, but not much. So this is a diamond loaded leather strop with 1 micron diamond spray. This is not the paste or the emulsion. I forget what company he uses. But this stuff polishes really nicely. Much better than any of my diamond products. I will say this stuff is very tacky. As I slide the edge across the leather, it's constantly wanting to stick. I can't say I'm a fan of that. I'm not liking that aspect of it. Otherwise though, stuff is fantastic. Here we go, guys. Let's see what kind of numbers we get today. $193. $144. $195. All right, so that's going to be test 1. I'm going to do a second set just to see if there's any difference. $149. $137. $141. So when you average the numbers out on the 2 tests, the first test I got 177, the second test I got 142, and I did check myself twice to make sure I inputted those numbers correctly. That is a 35 gram difference between the 2 tests. That's a big difference in my opinion, but hey, who am I to say anything? So the first test, we got 168. This is the original edge. That is a 9 gram difference from the test I just did and the original. And it's a 26 gram difference between the 142 and the 168. And I'll have all these numbers up in the description. So guys, take that for what it's worth. As I say in every video, I don't hold these numbers in high esteem, especially when I cut with the knife and it feels that sharp. Let's see if we can get her to focus for us today. I really do like how that diamond polishes. That is the start of a mirror finish. That is not a bad edge at all. It's pretty and it's sharp. means I'm going to have to take it to the silicon carbide again and retest that edge. I hate to leave a bad impression of these CBN stones because this edge feels extremely sharp to me. But, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. I may do 1 or 2 more tests, but what you see is what I got. As always, I'll have the best chart at the end with these results. If you guys have any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. And I appreciate you watching. Have a good one.